This is Aljazeera.
Hello, this is Maki,
This is Jack,
and we will discuss.
Information System.
So for this session, Jack and I will discuss module number 2, Information Systems. So we will understand how management info systems work and what are the particular examples of information system.
Module 2 has 4 sessions. Session 1, Management Information System. Session 2, the System Development Life Cycle. Session 3, Samples of Information Systems. Session 4, Reflections. Session 1, Management Information System. Management Information Systems, or MIS, is the study of people, technology, organizations, and the relationship among them. MIS professionals help firms realize maximum benefits from investment in personnel, equipment, and business processes. A management information system, or MIS, is a computer system consisting of hardware and software that serves as the backbone of organization operations. An MIS gathers data from multiple online systems, analyzes the information, and then reports data to it to aid in management decision making.
So in this slide, we will know about the improved decision making. As Jack explained to you about the management information system, the purpose of MIS is improved decision making by providing up-to-date, accurate data on a variety of organizational assets, including science, financials, inventory, personnel, project timelines, and marketing. Particularly, in our field of interest, there has been a lot of advancements on psychosocial support services, particularly on online referral system. The management information systems collects the data, stores it, and makes it accessible to managers who want to analyze the data by running reports. So it's a system wherein data will be understood and it will help the particular person or boss or manager in an improved decision.
Information system. The goal of an MIS is to be able to correlate multiple data points in order to strategize ways to improve operations. For example, being able to compare sales this month to sales a year ago by looking at staffing levels may point to ways to boost revenue, or being able to compare marketing expenditures by geographic location and link them to sales can also improve decision making. But the only way this level of analysis is possible is due to data that is compiled through an MIS.
Considering what Jack has mentioned about data, this must be interpreted. So from a certain big system where operations and managements are being considered, it is important that there are data sets that will be culled from the major data. So what are the components of a management information system? The first one is people who use the information system. So we need to understand sino ba yung gagamit, to whom the particular data will be used for. The second one are the data that the information system records. So for example, if it is a information about the number of users of Globe in the Philippines, so there's a certain macro level system in it, then it will produce a certain data that will then be used by certain end users to interpret the data. So data are important. Data can be numbers, figures, or it can be qualitative or quantitative. Next is business procedures. Procedures put in a place on how to record, store, and analyze data. Because there are a lot of data systems in place, we need to identify how will this particular data will be processed and will be analyzed. The last one that I will be discussing will be the hardware. Hardware, this includes the servers, workstations, networking equipment, printers, or these hardwares are the equipment used so that the data will be interpreted or analyzed properly. While software, these are programs used to handle the data. This includes programs such as spreadsheet, database software, and etc. So at this modern time, there are particular softwares that we are using in interpreting data. In the level of the students, we know about Word documents, Excel documents, PowerPoint presentations, and the like. If we will escalate these examples, we have social media applications. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have a lot of media applications that we can use to be able to identify or interpret a system. So those things that cannot be touched or not tangible are called software. So that is the comparison between the hardware and the software. So as we will proceed, we will be tackling session 2, the systems development cycle. So in terms of the systems development cycle, there are 9 particular things that we need to consider. The first one is analysis, the second one is planning, the third one is design, the fourth one is development, the fifth one is testing, the sixth is deployment, the seventh one is maintenance, the eighth is the evaluation, and the ninth one is the disposal. So if we will interpret these particular levels of the cycle, I will give you an example. So once we say analysis, it is to be able to analyze a certain plan or procedure. So for example, it will be a psychological provision for affected learners to a particular school. So before you proceed to a particular school in conducting psychosocial provision, you need to analyze what are the situation in the particular school, the number of students perhaps, the date and time of the disaster or emergency. So you need to discuss and know about these things. The second one is to be able to plan. After analyzing the particular situation or assessment, you need to consider planning. When we say planning, you need to have a concrete plan on the operations that you want to take in a psychosocial provision. So for example, planning for the budget, planning for the workforce, planning for the procedures that you want to consider. So you need to, planning is very much important so that you will have a backbone on what particular product you want to achieve. Then the next one is to design or to brainstorm. Upon planning, you need to consider that these plans may have positive or negative effects. So you need to consider ideas, you need to consider anticipated problems that you would meet in terms of the implementation phase of the particular project. The next is the development. Once there is a plan, once you have brainstormed it, you must be able to produce or implement a certain product or activity. Like what I have said a while ago, if it's a psychosocial provision, we need to consider about the implementation style or the project proposal perhaps. So you need to consider these things. The next is testing or to try out. So before you go to a particular school, you need to have series of simulation. You have to consider testing the plan that you want to consider. So upon simulation or testing, this is re-evaluating what you have designed, what you have planned, and what you have developed. You need to consider the deployment stage. When we say deployment, this is the take-off or the implementation stage. So you need to deploy this particular data or projects that you have drafted so that you would test if this is reliable and for it to be implemented. The next one, after deployment, you need to reconsider things because part on your procedure, perhaps there are delays, perhaps there are lapses, so you need to consider these things so that your project would be sustainable. So maintenance is very much important. So in terms of evaluation, after all of the levels were reached, you need to reevaluate again. the status of your procedure, the status of your product, so that you will arrive in a certain output that is reliable. Once you have tested all of these things, the project will be done, and the project can be disposed if ever it's a 2-year project, or if it's an activity for 4 or 5 sessions psychological first aid support services. If nakagkaroon na kayo ng 5 sessions, it can be said that the project is for disposal, or it can take off. So that, I think, is the most practical form that I can share to you about the systems development cycle. In the context of the deeper meaning of the systems development life cycle, it can be contextualized in different fields. So I have shared to you the field of psychosocial support services in a particular school. So to know more about this particular session, you can access this link. Okay?
Session 3. Do you want to know more about examples of information system? Let's watch this video.
Hi, I'm Michael Stizza, the new apprentice and co-host on Engineered Truth. Today, we're going to take a look at information systems, what they are exactly, and why they're so important. Put very plainly, an information system is a way for people and computers to share data. And that's it. Now you know. Video over. Hang in there, I'm kidding. Before you click away to watch another rant video on the last Star Wars film, stick with me. I know that description in of itself doesn't sound like much, but I promise, the world of information systems is extremely exciting and lucrative. I first started in information technology about 10 years ago. My first job was as a computer technician working in the healthcare industry. We serviced doctors and physicians' offices and hospitals. It was a lot of fun, and I learned a whole heck of a lot. From there, I got to witness firsthand the effects of information technology on patient care, as well as the necessity for information systems that all created. This was due to an explosion in healthcare technology thanks to government-mandated policies. Now, you might know these policies better as the lovingly named Obamacare, and we'll talk all about how these policies shook the industry. Now, to understand information systems, what they are and why you should care, first, let's break these concepts down. The easiest part to understand is the system piece. What is a system? Well, definitively, a system is just a way of doing the same task over and over again and getting consistent results. One of the most basic forms of the system is your everyday pocket calculator. Think about it this way. You bring up a calculator, put in numbers, give it an operation, and it gives you a result. Now imagine that result was randomized. Wouldn't be very useful. It works the exact same way with information systems. There needs to be a consistent way to interact with data and produce results. Simply put, without systems, there would be chaos. Next, we get into the age of information. Now, before we go there, let's take a look at this information from this video's sponsor. You know, some of the biggest hacking incidents ever have occurred in recent years. And with data getting bigger, the problem is only going to get worse. In today's age of information, you're absolutely going to want to protect your data. And to do that, I recommend you guys check out NordLocker. Now, NordLocker is an extremely easy to use, super secure application that protects your data. It protects it with military grade encryption using something called elliptic curve cryptography, which isn't some term someone made up in marketing, I promise you. It's an actual math algorithm that keeps the encryption very light and very fast. And not only can you protect your data, but you can share files securely as well through Google Drive, Dropbox, AirDrop, all of it, even email. Be sure to take advantage of 37% off a 1-year NordLocker subscription, plus an extra 5% off using the coupon code EngineeredTruth. Honestly, guys, NordLocker is a very, very good software that protects your data. It is so easy, so simple to use, and so secure, there is no reason not to have data protection in today's day and age. So check out NordLocker at the link in the description below. Now travel back in time with me to the 1990s. Things like the Sony Discman, Ninja Turtles, and the Game Boy were all the rage. And now you might have heard about something around this time called the dot-com boom. Now, what this essentially was an incredible upswing of technology solutions being developed in Silicon Valley. This is the time that we really saw information technology start to change the landscape and have a global impact. Think about things like the internet and the way that we interact with each other. You had things being revolutionized like the automotive industry and banking and so on. Meanwhile, all these new technologies keep growing and growing and growing, bigger and bigger, more data, and what's happening? It's chaos. No one really knows how to manage all this data, what it's worth, or deliver it because of that. Madness! How do we control and manage all this information coming across businesses, governments, and people? The answer? Information systems. Think of an information system as a way to collect, manage, and distribute data on demand. Nowadays, we have some pretty powerful collectors of data and information. Think about how many ways there are to get data. You have Google, Facebook, Instagram. The internet itself is just one massive network to be able to share data. Companies like Amazon and Google thrive on being able to collect data. And believe me, someone has to manage all of that. Now, travel back in time with me again to 2008. And like I mentioned, this is where I got my start as a computer technician in healthcare. Now, the story goes that healthcare reform was being pushed through Washington. Part of that reform was the way that information was being collected from patients and shared amongst healthcare providers. So what does that look like? When you go to the doctor, the first thing you do is go up to the counter and they have your patient intake. All that data goes into the computer. That computer information has to go somewhere, whether they're storing it themselves or they're having another company store it and manage it for them. Up to this point, physician practices were not mandated to have any kind of electronic system. In fact, many doctors were still on pen and paper. This was 2008. It's pretty surprising that so many doctors were still on the old pen and paper. This was an information management nightmare. How could you possibly easily share data from physician to physician if it was on pen and paper on a rack somewhere in a basement? And that was part of the problem healthcare reform was trying to solve by making sure that data was more easily accessible amongst private offices, hospitals, and so on. This would help reduce the risk of mistreatment because a doctor did not have enough or the right information at the time of treatment. Then we get into the explosion of the healthcare industry. I witnessed as doctors and hospitals scrambled to get systems into place that they can collect, manage, and distribute their data. And there was very specific criteria they had to meet in order to stay compliant with the government if they wanted to continue practicing medicine. To further complicate the rate of adoption for all this healthcare technology, the government set a deadline that if doctors did not have these systems in place by then, they would lose any government incentives that they were offering, in addition to getting penalized for not having them. All of this resulted in a perfect storm of healthcare providers trying to get the systems in place by their deadlines so that they can get the incentives as well as not get penalized. One of the biggest problems that came from all of this was the lack of proper management of information systems just because everyone had to have this technology. And so it all fell to us, the people developing it and selling it and supporting it, also now had to figure out ways to intelligently manage it and make all this data available. Believe me, when you have the government breathing down your neck about how your information is being shared and delivered, you pay attention. Information systems were critical for me personally to be able to wrangle in all these new solutions, all of this data. Without them, I probably couldn't have done my job. Guys and gals, every single industry has information and people in those industries that need to manage that information. To be able to architect, deploy, and manage information systems is critical to every business. So when it comes to information systems, remember to gather, parse, process, and distribute the data. Today, we looked at information systems, what they are, what they do, and how they personally benefited me in my career when I started in healthcare IT. Hi, I'm Michael Stizza, apprentice and co-host here on Engineered Truth. Today we're going to take a look at what jobs are available in information systems. This is a question we get fairly frequently on the channel. People just want to know what kind of jobs are in the information system industry. And it's a very broad topic. Information systems covers such a wide range of responsibilities and skill sets. So we're going to take a look at different levels of jobs available, everything from entry level all the way up to more senior and director level positions. And we're going to use real world examples of what those look like. And oh yes, we are going to talk about money. Fat stacks, dollar bills, paperbacks, y'all, you know what I'm talking about. How much money do these jobs at different levels make exactly? Well, we're going to unpack all of that. We're not leaving anything off the table. So if you've been considering a job in information systems, this is the video for you. Now, a very brief history about myself. I've been working in the IT industry for over 10 years. I got started when I was just 19 years old. My first job was fixing desktop PCs and printers. I started off on a very small team of about 8 people. It was a great way to get started, and from there I've had the privilege of working in various IT sectors, including places like cloud providers, small businesses, large enterprises, and just about everything in between. So I am very excited to share all of my knowledge and experience with you guys. And without further ado, let's dive in. As a quick refresher, remember, an information system is just a way for people and computers to share data together. As an expert in information systems, you have to have a clear understanding of not just the technology solutions, but also the business operations and how the technology comes together to make businesses better. Really, the main responsibility of someone working in information systems is to make sure that data can be accessed quickly, reliably, and securely. And speaking of security, that's a great segue into today's video sponsor. If you're going to be working in information systems, one of your chief concerns is going to be security. Some of the worst data breaches ever have occurred because of user error. When I was working in healthcare IT, doctors needed to access their patient data all the time, and this is a very big security concern. The best way to access data remotely is with a secure, encrypted private connection. Surfshark is an incredibly easy to use VPN software. What this does is it gives you a private connection to the internet that's encrypted, and it protects any data that you're sending to and from the World Wide Web. You can install it on an unlimited number of devices, which is not something a lot of VPN softwares let you do. With Surfshark, you can connect to the internet completely securely for as little as 7 cents a day. Sign up today and get as much as 83% off using the link in the description below. All right, Mr. Big Shot, Mr. Future Millionaire, you've gone through your education, maybe you have some certifications, maybe even a little bit of experience. But now you are faced with your next great challenge. Where the heck do you get started? Well, typically in an entry-level position, you're going to be looking for something like an internship or maybe an assistant level position. You know, it's like Mama always said, the best place to start is at the beginning. And for this example, I have 2 entry-level positions to go over with you guys. Let's bring up that first position and let's take a quick look at what your first job in information systems might look like. What does a day-to-day responsibilities look like in this role? Well, pretty straight and simple. First of all, you don't know anything. And you're gonna feel like you know nothing, especially after you get started. And that's okay. Very normal and very expected for someone who maybe just came out of school or just had an internship somewhere, something along those lines. I do not say this to scare you guys. Please believe me. When you come out of wherever you're coming from, you're going to step into the real world, into real working environments, and just feel like you know absolutely nothing, like you got nothing out of your education. Perfectly normal for you to feel like you were just drowning for the first 6 months at your job. Basically, hook up to the fire hose and drink. But that's a good thing. You want to have the experience and the knowledge to be molded and pushed, and advancing in your career in information systems is the only way you're gonna learn. Believe me, I have seen this scenario over and over again. Okay, enough of me scaring you for a minute. So what does someone make in a position like this? How much money? Let's talk dollars and cents for a minute. Well, entry level, when I first started, I was making a healthy 10 bucks an hour, which obviously isn't very much. But entry-level positions like this, it's very common to get $12 to $13 an hour. Sometimes you can get on the upper end, like $18, $19 an hour, but it depends on a number of factors. Things like your education, where you live, your experience, and so on. The main thing is, you're probably not breaking open banks at this level of pay, but we're gonna move up, no worries. My next example, I would just love to share with you more about my personal experience when I first got started in IT 10 years ago. And like I mentioned, I was mainly fixing desktop PCs and printers. I would do things like remove viruses, replace basic desktop components, and so on. And I know what you're thinking. What the heck does that have to do with information systems? Well, it's all about getting started. It's about getting experience and exposure to the industry. When I first started, it was more important to have the experience and the exposure to the industry than it was just to have the title of information systems somewhere. Now let's move it on up, straight into mid-level positions. Now, these are the kind of jobs where you're going to be expected to have some years of experience, usually between 3 and as high as 8 years of experience. Just depends on the industry and the job type and so on. And now at this point, you've probably got some battle scars underneath your belt, which is a great thing. You have experience and working knowledge, and you're going to be expected to be something of an expert in your field. So people are going to look up to you for guidance as well as how you use that expertise to solve problems. Now with that established, let's take a look at our first mid-level job example right here. And this is a job from Red Hat. What exactly would an information systems controls analyst do? It's quite a mouthful. Well, in this kind of job, you're really mostly concerned with security. More specifically, you're going to be designing, implementing, supporting, and making sure that your security systems are being followed and compliant. Now this can be a very, very valuable position because security, as we know, is on the up and up. It's a hot topic in today's information technology industry, so it will always have a place in time in businesses, and you need to understand how security affects businesses, how you implement systems, and how you maintain control of those systems. The kind of money you can expect to make is going to be around 65 to nearly 100 grand. Again, this is a very broad pay range because it really just depends on where you are and what company you work for, but Red Hat specifically is known for compensating their employees pretty well. Let's move it on. Bring up that next position on the screen here, and this is a position in the healthcare industry working for Duke Health. Healthcare is very close to my heart because it's the industry I got started in all those years ago. There are so many different types of jobs in healthcare, but let's talk about this one specifically. What would an ambulatory information systems analyst do exactly? Well, what I can surmise from the listing is you're basically designing, developing, implementing, supporting, and making sure that your electronic healthcare records are keeping up with the needs of Duke Health. I'll be honest with you guys, this is a pretty big job. You are directly responsible for doctors being able to access medical records for patients. For this kind of job, I would not expect to make anything less than $100,000. And by the way, just a personal note, maybe get ready for a few extra gray hairs if you work in a position like this. Anyway, let's move it on up. Next up, we're going all the way up to senior and director level positions. Let's just say these aren't the kind of jobs that you can always easily Google and find. Oh boy, where to start on this one? Let's bring up that first position here on screen. Honestly, and I only mean this half jokingly, it might be easier to tell you what these type of positions don't do versus what they actually do. But I will try my best to surmise all the responsibilities of director and senior level positions. First of all, for this position, you are going to need a lot of business acumen, IT experience, and ability to manage people. Usually, these kind of guys are pulling in multiple decades worth of experience potentially. Now, this one in particular starts at about 7 years with all the education requirements you can see in that listing as well. However, let's be very specific. Not only are you going to have to understand business operations in their entirety, but you will also have to hire, manage, and fire people as you need to in order to maintain your business. To be honest with you guys, I would not do a job like this for anything less than $115,000 to $130,000 a year. And that is just a start. I personally know information system technology directors who make $175,000, almost $200,000 a year. It's like anything else, the work and the responsibilities have to be directly controversial to the income that you receive. In the case of director level responsibilities, you should be pretty well compensated. And now, the grand finale, the last job that we are going to look at in information systems. Let's bring it up on screen. Okay, so not a whole heck of a lot changes between director to director level positions. Generally speaking, they're all going to do sort of the same thing. You will have to be very good with people, very good with business and technology and so on. However, I would like to take just 1 minute to look at and appreciate the mammoth requirements of this job. If you notice, you are looking at multiple years worth of experience as well as a broad range of different technologies. And there is one last skill set you have got to have going into these level positions that we haven't touched yet. And that skill set is resource management. Not just external resources, but yourself. Honestly, no lie, at this level, you have got to have a very high level of self-awareness, of time management, of discipline, and being able to handle and resolve pretty critical situations without letting it rattle you personally. So in addition to handling all of the business and IT and people management, you have got to master the one resource that's most critical for your success. And that resource, it's yourself. In my personal opinion, it does take a very certain discipline to be able to handle positions like this. I really respect people that take on these positions and handle them very, very well. Oh man, here we are guys, end of the video. I hope that was as much fun for you as it was for me. I love this stuff. I genuinely enjoy looking at different positions and technologies and being in this industry. Now let's sum it all up. In today's video, we took a look at different positions in information systems at varying levels of experience and expertise, as well as how much money you can expect to make approximately at those varying levels. We took a look at real-world examples of actual jobs available in information systems right now.
Now that you know about the samples of information systems, let us reflect and further understand the advantages and disadvantages of information system.
Advantages: fast data processing and information retrieval. This is one of the biggest advantages of a computerized information system. It processes data and retrieves information at a faster rate. This leads to improved client customer service. Improved data accuracy. Easy to implement data validation and verification checks in a computerized system compared to a manual system. The third one is improved security. In addition to restricting access to the database server, the computerized information system can implement the other securities controls such as user authentication, biometric authentication systems, access right control, and etc. The fourth one, reduce data duplication. Database systems are designed in such a way that minimize duplication of data. This means updating data in one department automatically makes it available to the other departments. Provide improved backup systems. With modern day technology, backups can be stored in the cloud, which make it easy to recover the data if something happened to the hardware and software used to store the data. The last advantages is easy access to information. Most business executives need to travel and still be able to make a decision based on the information. The web and mobile technologies make accessing data from anywhere possible.
Now for the disadvantages, it is expensive to set up and configure. The organization has to buy hardware and the required software to run information systems. So this is pretty much diffuse. In addition to that, business procedures will need to be revised and the staff will need to be trained on how to use the computerized information system. Heavy reliance on technology. If something happens to the hardware or software that makes it stop functioning, then the information cannot be accessed until the required hardware or software has been placed. Risk of fraud. If proper controls and checks are not in place, an intruder can post unauthorized transactions such as invoice for goods that were never delivered and etc. So let us all be careful. Okay. Again, this is Maki.
This is Jack.
And we have discussed
Management Information System.